What's up, guys? It's your favorite Kiwi coach, and give me 6 months of your time and I'll give you the best golf swing of your life. So welcome back. In this particular video, if you've ever been in practice after one of our lessons and you're wondering to yourself, how did the Kiwi coach get my swing to change so much? I can't do it myself. I know the how much and when, but I'm really having a hard time doing it myself. How did the magic happen in the lesson? I want to recreate it. Well, if you're thinking about that, this is the perfect video for you because we're going to be going over a PDF that we have created for you that's going to really help structure your thoughts about this and how to actually do everything that we did in the lesson by yourself. So let's go ahead and jump in. So like I said in the intro, if you're one of those people who took a lesson from myself, you got amazing results in the lesson, you're like, I love these swing changes, they look awesome, but then after the lesson, maybe 3 days, 4 days later, you're trying to practice, you're trying to do it by yourself, and next thing you know, your swing looks just like it did before. It looks really ugly now, you're unhappy, you're hitting the golf ball really bad, and you're frustrated. You're like, how did the Kiwi coach do what we did in the lesson? I can't remember, I watched the video that they sent me, I just can't do what they told me in the lesson. Well, if you're feeling yourself having those emotions, this is the perfect video for you. We have created what's called the Feel vs. Real Check Sheet PDF, which is going to walk you exactly step by step what we do in the lessons. I'm going to give you all of my secrets that I typically use as an instructor in the lesson to be able to get your swing to change as much as we did in the lesson. So the first part to this PDF is we need to establish what we're trying to work on. So if you guys have taken lessons from myself, you probably hear me talk about this as a project, right? So maybe a project is going to be top of swing club shaft position, right? Or maybe a project would be the club shaft movement in transition, P4 to P5. Typically, when we're talking about this first point right here, it's the project that I assigned you first. So for this particular video, let's just say we're trying to work on club shaft position at the top of the swing. We want to see the club shaft running through the forearm. That would be our ideal position. If there's about a 10-degree variance on either side, that is also okay as well. So this first point, we have now clearly established, what we're trying to change and what is the correct checkpoint parameters. That's really important for the first step of this PDF. Now, before we get into these 3 parts right here, let's go into this part, which is going to be what is the opposite body motion or body part that is going to directly affect what we're trying to change. So in this particular case, if we're talking about the club shaft position at the top, it's going to be the wrist rotation and the forearm rotation. So actually, the more and more I move my wrist and forearm this way, which means that the palm is going down towards the sky, that would actually get the club shaft more and more laid off. Versus if I went the opposite way, where the palm is going up towards the sky, that would actually get the club shaft more and more crossed. So for us, the opposite body motion in this case would be what's called pronation of the left wrist and then clockwise rotation of the forearm. If you can do that, you're going to get rid of the cross line position at the top. So that is a really important point right there. Now, getting into these 3 parts right here, let's explain this. So the first column right here, this is going to be your guess, right? This is what you think you need to feel to be able to get the results that you want to get, right? So that is going to be this first column. This column right here, before you look at your golf swing, this is going to be, what did I feel like I actually did, right? I wanted to do this, this, and this, but this is what I think I actually did, right? It's just another guess. And then this column is going to be the actual real, right? So this is going to be you check the golf swing, you look at what actually happened, and then you put what actually happened right here. So these 3 columns and the way that we have structured it about is going to make it very easy for you to take the correct steps in your mind to be able to adjust accordingly, which we're also going to talk about in this video. But these are the 3 columns. Let's start with the first column, which is going to be our initial guess. What do we need to feel? So the first row right here is going to be what's called the start point. So the start point just means, when are we going to start to move towards that opposite motion that we have established in this row right here? Are we going to start right around the takeaway? Are we going to start right around halfway back on the backswing? Are we going to start around the top of the swing? We have to establish when we're trying to do that, because if we want to adjust later and we didn't do this, well, we don't know when we started, so this might be a very important part that we could change that could help us. So let's establish when we're trying to start. The next row right here is going to be all about peak point. Peak point just means, let's say I'm trying to basically do as much as I possibly can out of the opposite motion. Well, when am I going to reach that full amount? Am I going to reach it, just after the start point? Am I going to reach it a lot later than the start point? What position in the golf swing am I going to reach that peak point at? That is a very important point to establish because, again, it's going to allow us to adjust in the future. If we don't have this established, we don't really know when we try to reach that full amount, so it's difficult to kind of judge if we should change it or not. And then the last row right here when it comes to the timing is going to be the end point. The end point is just going to be, okay, I've reached the peak point now. How long should I hold that full amount feeling for? Should I immediately allow it to go away? Should I try to hold it for all the way throughout the downswing and the follow through? This is another point that you need to establish when it comes to the timing because it really gets the whole trifecta of timing for us, which means we need the start point, we need the peak point, and then from there we need the end point. These are very important to establish before you swing because, again, these are going to be the reference points when it comes to timing, the leverage points that we can actually kind of mess around with and try to fix. Last but not least is going to be the how much. So how much, like we just stated earlier in this video, is how much of the opposite body motion are we trying to do? So I always like to start off with 100%, right? Do as much as we possibly can for the first swing. But also, a lot of you guys out there, you kind of understand and you can kind of get the visual of 100%. But maybe when I tell you to do 10%, it's difficult for you to get that visual. So I want to spend some time and talk about, how can I visualize this for myself?